you. Exactly. So, and I've been at different capacities. This is my first banking job. Prior to this, I did more Sarbanes-Oxley and training and development, more HR type functionality, and I worked for Thomson Reuters in New York City. We did more of training the brokers on how to use the platforms for investments and stuff like that. And then with Pitney Bowes, I did more of, if anybody's familiar with Pitney Bowes, they have the meter machines. So I was on the finance end of that. So I've done a little bit of everything. Like I shared earlier, I went to real estate school. I used to work for Pitney Bowes when I went to real estate school, and when I failed the test by the 2 questions, Thomson Reuters had been trying to recruit me. I took the job with them, and working in Manhattan, I was going to have time, so that's kind of how it all worked out. But I gained a lot of knowledge. So those are the things that I take with me. Is every company or everything that I've ventured into, I try to learn as much as I can so that I can understand the network of people around me and how I can help them, and then how they can help me too, right? To grow as well. When I met Aldo, I met him through the chamber. So organizations that I'm involved in Jacksonville, I am the president of the advisory board for the Puerto Rican and Hispanic Chamber of Commerce with Nancy Quiñones. I am on the board of advisors for Beaver Street Enterprises. I am the president of Community Engagement and Development, I think it is, because it's a bigger title, with the First Thursdays through their Urban League here in Jacksonville. And then with Aldo, since he started getting these ideas about I had your tag on with the heritage, he talked to me last year, right? When you started getting all these ideas fluctuating in your head, that he wanted to put this group together. So I've been more, like his sounding board on a few things, just to kind of, because of the chamber, or because of all the different entities that, and I'm on the Jax chamber as well. But that I'm just a member of, thank God, because I don't think I can handle anything else. So what I try to do with Aldo and this organization, I think he has a lot of great ideas. I see his vision as bringing together a group of professionals that are trying to achieve similar goals, and then trying to see how we can all network with each other to help this expand and bring something to St. Augustine that really wasn't there before, but also bringing people together that can create something that maybe the chambers don't provide. Because he's always told me, this is not a chamber. I don't want it to be like a chamber. I want it to be something that people can benefit from in a different capacity. But at the end of the day, like I told Aldo, we're all business people, so we're all in here to network and try to figure a way out to become a community that supports each other. One of the questions that he asked is, should I have more than one type of organization be a part of my organization? And today was a great example. He has regions in TD Bank. I think it's great. Why wouldn't you have 2 people? Because we can leverage each other. He may know stuff that I don't know. I know stuff he doesn't know, and so forth. So I don't think having one commitment to one type of industry made sense, but that's just to share with you, like, the kind of conversations that we have.
I totally agree.
Right? Yeah. So, and that's just me. I could be wrong. It's just my opinion. Also, he wanted me to tell you guys about the way our dynamic is, but also my personality. We were talking about that yesterday. So, what
She's
you see?
Strong too.
Huh?
She is strong woman too.
So, with me, what you see is what you get. I try to be very pleasant and nice with everybody. Just I'm a very passive person. But in Spanish we call it, no tengo pelo en la lengua. So, I'm gonna tell you.
Frank.
Yeah,
Frank,
I'm very blunt and
transparent.
frank, exactly. So if I say something, that's what I mean. Sometimes I have to scale myself back because I am from up north. So some people say, oh, you sound so direct or mean. I don't have that intention. Trust me, there's nothing in my body or mind that has ill intention on anything. So I just ask for the same thing in return. I'm sure there's been times where he calls me and I'm on the road. One time I was driving to Gainesville and I'm like, Aldo, I don't have time right now. Like, I can't talk to you. I'm sorry. And I had to hang up, and he was like, he didn't call me for like 4 days. And he calls me back.
Woman.
Yeah. And he's like, well, do you have time for me now? And you could tell that he was.
Angie.
But, it's just, but that's the relationship we already have. And I was like, oh, you're still mad at me. I'm sorry. But, he knows it always comes from a good place, and I never, I don't take things personally. I have very thick skin. And I told him that his question to me was, putting this together, especially like with the board, what do you think that should look like? And I said it should be as diverse as you need it to be, because although it's the Latin heritage, right? It's just like the Hispanic Chamber and the Puerto Rican Chamber. That's a title because of the people that started it are trying to address people in a community that maybe needs to feel included or more inclusive, but that doesn't mean that it's limited to just those people in that community. It's open to everyone, right? So diversity is key, inclusion is key. So I told them whether it's based on the industry or the person or what they bring to the table, everybody has a skill set that he's not going to have because no one has everything, and he can just pull from everybody to make this organization what he needs it to be. But he has to be open to listening to people's ideas and not be, and not get too defensive because it's his baby. It's like I'm a mother, so somebody says something about my kid, the first thing I'm going to do is like, oh, wait, slow down, that's my kid. Like, what are you trying to say? So the way I see it with Aldo is he's creating this like if it was his kid. So he gets, he's very protective of it. But if he's bringing all these,
Emotional.
You ready now?
yes. And emotional intelligence is a big key to running any organization, right? So you just have to have that dynamic. So, as his friend, right, taking out the business side of it, I just ask that you just kind of, hear him out, but also give him the guidance that he's looking for, because he's really a great guy with good intentions. He's just looking for the right group to put it together so that everybody in the community gets what he's trying to do within the vision, shares the vision, and drives the organization together. So I think that's it. I talked a lot. I said everything you told me to say.
Really?
So you gotta pay me.
That's perfect.
I guess most of you speak English. I know you look like you speak Spanish, but you don't. Kind of. ¿Si estás entendiendo?
Más o menos.
Poquito.
It's okay if you have to go back and forth and
Si
understand
quieres yo,
more
mira,
Spanish.
si quieres yo traduzco al lado
That's
tuyo,
okay.
si no te molesta.
Yeah.
Yo lo hago en los dos si quieres.
No, so
I'll
like
do-
educator
I'll
turn,
do
it's
both.
okay. Like I can understand more Spanish than I think she does more English.
Okay,
It's
but
okay.
they don't speak Spanish. So I'll do it in both.
Oh,
I'll do it in
okay,
both.
so I'm not.
That was a great question.
So it's actually good to meet you guys. It's always good to meet new people. I guess I'll tell a little bit about my story and kind of what I do and how I connected with him as well. So I'm from the States. I was born in Chicago, but I was raised in Medellin, Colombia. My parents were missionaries. I come from a fourth generation missionary family. So my grandparents on my dad's side were missionaries. So they were missionaries in Colombia. So my dad was born in Colombia, but he's as white, blue-eyed as I am, and because my grandparents were American. On that side, my mom was born right after the Korean War in South Korea. She was actually left in the bathroom of a hospital, and American missionaries adopted her. So she was born and raised in South Korea. Super intelligent. She speaks seven languages now. She's a nurse. But anyway, so everybody says, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm from a little bit of everywhere. But anyway, so I was born here in the States, though. But I wouldn't trade anything for being raised in Medellin, even though it was, a rough time during the 80s and 90s. But yeah, I always joke around with people. I say, Colombia is very popular for its coffee. Right?
Well, they used to be like that, the Juan Valdez commercials.
Yeah. So, but I was raised around all that, and missionaries, they don't go to the nice side of town. They go to where there's the most amount of need. So I grew up in a very, very different world, especially than in comparison to what it's like here. So third world country, but the worst side of third world countries. But I was raised with an environment of always wanting to love and care on people. So that was the environment that I was raised in. My wife is actually Colombian. We met down in Colombia. She was 16, I was 17. Dated for 4 years before we came up to the States. So we got here. The reason we came to the States is because she got her residency granted. So we decided to come up here. She was 19, I was 20. Had no idea what we were doing. Young and dumb, as they say, right? And we were lied to. We were told, Florida's warm, beaches, sunshine all the time. And they said Jacksonville. I'm like, what's Jacksonville? Where's Jacksonville? I had to look it up on the internet because all I knew about was Miami, Orlando, and sometimes Tampa. right? But anyway, so we ended up coming here because some of her family members that also got their residency ended up moving here. And I was sharing that I've got a sister, an older sister. She lives up in Indiana. We were originally planning on going up there, but when we figured out how cold it was here, we're like, no, we're not going any further north. So we decided to stay here. Now, getting here, we literally got here like $23 in my pocket and a suitcase. So we started from scratch. It was a rough couple months in the beginning. And once we got here, I started working ministry as well. I worked international missions for about 5 years and prison ministry for 4. So worked in developing leadership with Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, just different programs. And then Duval had a Spanish service, but no other county in Northeast Florida had a Spanish service. So I started the Spanish, the Hispanic or Spanish prison ministry for Clay County, and then expanded that out all the way to Hamilton County, which is about an hour, 40 minutes from here.
Start from Clay?
Yeah, starting Clay. Now every county in Northeast Florida's got a Hispanic prison ministry. So that's kind of the environment or my background. I didn't know anything about money or finance or anything like that. But about 9 months being here in the States, I met a very wealthy individual, multi-millionaire, who started teaching me a lot about how money works here, how the markets work, how investing works, how all this different stuff worked. So I just started taking what I was learning, applying it. I started doing well, so my mindset was, well, if I've been blessed with the opportunity to learn this, I got to share this with other people as well. So I just sat down with 3 people that I was working with in ministry over on the west side. We were living over on the west side then. And I taught them some financial concepts. And they spread this rumor that I was like a financial guru, like I was really good with money. And this was in October when I sat down with them. By December, I had over 400 Hispanics calling me, asking for help with their finances. So I started sitting down with them and just teaching them as much as I'd learned. Went back to Bob, who's the guy that taught me this stuff. He goes, well, hold on, you're not supposed to be talking about that stuff if you're not licensed. I'm like, what do you mean licensed? I do have a license. He goes, no, not a driver's license. There's different licenses with the government that you have to get to be able to talk about stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I ended up getting licensed, studying all that stuff, getting licensed. And because I was working in ministry, and this rumor got spread mainly within one church over on the west side, the pastor asked me, well, why don't you just come and do like a workshop, a seminar on personal finance for the church? So I went and started doing these workshops, and one church went to another church and so forth. And now over the years, if we fast forward 13 years later, sat down with about 4,000 families, coached them with their finances, done hundreds and hundreds of workshops. And these workshops have spread from a couple Hispanic churches to all kinds of different churches, to American churches. Some people that worked for the city went to these churches. So I said, well, why don't you come do these workshops at the city? So I started doing workshops with the city of Jacksonville. Clay County got jealous. They said, well, why don't you come over here too? And then the library said, well, why don't you just do it through the library? So we started doing educational workshops with the Jacksonville Public Library a couple years ago. I actually got an award by a city councilman, Samuel Newby, in 2015 for the workshops that we've been doing for the city. But anyway, so we do a lot of educational workshops. A lot of people come to this country not knowing anything about anything. And our focus is, well, when I came here, I wanted to learn. I went to Books A Million at the Orange Park Mall. I grabbed a book on stock options. Didn't understand any of it because it's too complicated. So we wanted to, and each time I'd sign up for some kind of a seminar on personal finance, all it was some goofy sales pitch, some organization trying to sell something. Never really learned how things really worked. So our focus from the get-go has always been, let's provide real education on how money really works. Because if people have the truth of how money really works, then they can make informed decisions on what's best for them and their family. Because products companies, they come and go. And you guys have been in business long enough that you guys have seen that. So especially through this past recession that we went through in 2008. So I've been doing this a lot all over the city. So most people know me as the money guy within the Hispanic community on that side of things, even though I've never been money motivated at all. It's always been focused on seeing what we can do to help people. I am licensed as a broker independently, broker for like 20 different companies. I didn't want to work for a single company to be able to force to be pushed a single product on somebody. So my focus was, I'm going to be completely independent. Plus, I was working ministry. This was all like my little side gig. I was just doing it in my spare time to help people. And obviously, it's grown to a point where full-fledged business, and now that's kind of where we're at. So when Aldo had his first meeting for this, some of the people that were at that meeting spread the word to me and said, hey, they're trying to educate and empower the Hispanic community, especially when it comes to the economical side, and you've been doing that for 13 years. So you need to talk with this guy. So I just called him up, sat down with them, and shared the same thing I just shared with you guys. So that's a little bit about me, and a little bit about what we're doing. We've got a big vision to start helping thousands of families every year, because Jacksonville's grown tremendously. Yeah, St. John's, I think, the fastest growing county in Florida. So I mean, 2 years ago, Jacksonville and the surrounding areas was at 1.4 million people. Now it's 1.6. It's growing 100,000 people per year. And the Hispanic community is right now it's 9%, which means there's 145,000 Hispanics in Jacksonville. When I first came here, you'd go anywhere and there's like almost never any Hispanics. So when there was someone, I'd walk up to them all, all happy, start talking to them in Spanish. I'd scare them because I don't look like I speak Spanish.
He's possessed.
Yeah. But nowadays you can go anywhere and see Hispanic people. So, and that's awesome. And there have been all types of different organizations throughout the city that have asked me to participate or be part of them and things like that. And I'll start with them to see what they're really after. And then, like the First Coast Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I'm not a very big fan of them, mainly because of the fact that it's more of a social club than an actual Chamber of Commerce. I've always imagined the Chamber of Commerce as a place to do business and connect people that need those products and services. So I'm not a very big fan of them. I'm an A-type personality. I'm action-oriented. If you're not working and all you're doing is fiddling, I've got too much on my plate. I don't even have a TV in the house. I'm very, very, very focused. I'm a workhorse. I'll work 14, 16-hour days. Now, we do travel a lot, too. My wife and I do travel a lot. But there's a time frame that, like 4 or 5 years, I was working every single day. I'm not afraid of working. I come from a country where you have no other option than to work all day. So I'm all about let's go out there and make an impact within the community, but it's got to be a real impact. If not, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. So partnered up with Aldo to see how we can help you guys as an organization in providing education on economic empowerment and teach people really how to get ahead with their finances.
I want to mention something quickly. Give me a second. One of the ladies invited by Mary Ibanez, and the other one can make it. Bibi, everybody knows Bibi, but Mary Ibanez worked for City First Bank, Citizen Bank, and he said, "Come on to my house," and he got to the house, and we sit down, and I give him my card. So when he read the back, I said, "I'm doing this for 13 years." He said, "Really? That's what I do for 13 years. Do you want to be in?" And automatically say, "Yes." I'm right now just thank you so much. For that, and thinking for the Department of Education, you're most welcome. And well, I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate for your time. I got.
We're on. My name is Jorge Rivera, and I was born in New York City. And when Glenda was talking about how we Northerners are, yes, we are more direct. Well, you might have roommates, and a good Southern girl would put, "Would you please be kindly to wash the dishes?" A New Yorker would put a sign that says, "Your mother doesn't live here, so wash the freaking dishes," okay? So it's just that approach, and we don't mean anything. With the president you should know this style by now, okay? It's what we call wise guy language. But that's how we're raised. I was born in New York City, raised in the inner city at a very rough time. I was born in 1955, a long time ago. I tell my granddaughter, I was born in the middle of the last century, you know, and she always thinks that's funny. But I'm here because Santos had told me to just talk in general. I've done many jobs in my life. I've been a dishwasher, I've been a cook, I've managed restaurants, I've been a waiter, I've been a fireman, I've been an interpreter, I've worked as a volunteer in war zones. I was an electrician for the city of New York. I was an actor in New York for many years. So I've done many, many things. And one thing I did when I was 34 almost, or 33, I had traveled a bit around the world, and I decided that I'd leave and quit my great job and go and travel around the world for 1 year. And so I went on my journey. I sold everything. I had a little car. I drove it all the way from New York to San Francisco, working with farmers, going into little churches, etc., etc. I sold the car in San Francisco, and I headed towards Japan. And my journey of 1 year became 14 years. And I came back home 14 years later. And I had traveled through Russia and through all of Europe and North Africa, sat with workers, political prisoners, communists, nationalists, neo-Nazis, liberals, crazy artists, and I learned a lot about people. And so I ended up in St. Augustine about 12 years ago, and everything I had was lost in the crash. I could have used you then. But in 2009, everything was gone. The marriage was gone. My mother had fallen very sick. Everything took a big turn. And sometimes a friend of mine once said, use all your nice memories. When times get really tough, think of those wonderful moments in your life. And I remember one sad day, I started remembering riding a moped through the streets of Hanoi with my ex-wife as my girlfriend at the time, at night, watching all the lights in Vietnam. And that was a wonderful evening. And so you use that to try to stay alive. My father used to say, everybody takes a really bad beating sometime. You gotta get up. You got to get up. And in Puerto Rico we say, with the machete in the hand, you know, ready to move forward. And so that was the whole thing. So in St. Augustine, I started FirstCoast.tv using an iPhone 5 years ago. It was to create a channel that the city of St. Augustine, which is a cultural mecca, didn't have. And slowly it started catching fire. And people would call me, would you cover this, would you cover that, blah, 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 blah. I had the idea at one point that I was not going to make money with this. And I remember something my father said, if they put money or love, take the love. The dividends are endless. And so I went with that whole idea, I'm going to do this for the community, expose all these groups that have never been shown, etc., etc. I had a horrible accident November 1st. I was 15 minutes from dying, and I drove myself busted up into Flagler Hospital in a stick shift with 2 broken ribs and a collapsed lung, trying not to faint in the car, because I knew if I lost and fainted, being a fireman and an interpreter in a hospital for many years, I would die. And so I made it, and they grabbed me and pulled me in, and I remember being in that hospital for 10 days while they were fixing Scarecrow together. And it was amazing that as I laid there in bed, veterans came to see me. The mayor came to see me. The city manager came to see me. The heads of Flagler came to see me. Little organizations of little old women came to see me. And it was just powerful to see that you didn't notice, but the community loved you. And everyone would say the same thing. Thank you, Jorge, for everything you do for the community. Thank you, Jorge, for everything you do for this community. Jorge, we would be nothing if it wasn't for you and your camera. And it was over and over and over. And the emails that came in, the texts. And at the same time, I had a very, very good friend who was battling cancer for the 5th time. And she had been eating out of a tube in her stomach for many, many, many years. And in her last battle, they cut her tongue out. And she was, and when we meet, she talked. This woman would not stop. And while I was in that hospital with tubes coming out of my chest, oxygen, IVs, we and her kept texting, and I knew she was struggling this 5th battle. And at one point, she didn't answer the text and surely died. But I remember her last text to me was, "Are you in pain?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "What are they giving you?" And I said, "Lots of morphine." And knowing Shirley, Shirley said, enjoy the high, my brother. Enjoy the high. And, but that was Shirley. Shirley was an African-American woman, was loved in the community, and became my friend to the camera because she was a camera woman herself. And when she was buried, or a funeral, was like they buried an African queen. People came, whites, blacks, Hispanics, knew Shirley. And she had that impact. And what I realized from Shirley, whether they cut your tongue off, whether you're feeding from a tube, man, you just keep doing what you love. You keep loving life. Yeah. I'm with a group that we bring art to public places in St. Augustine. We're not an official group, but we are a group of individuals who know each other, who have our connections, and we bring artists, world-renowned artists, into St. Augustine to exhibit. Right now, I was talking with Dasha, our bartender, of a Ukrainian artist who's going to have an exhibit on the 15th of January in the Rotunda in St. Sebastian, in the Sebastian View, which is right there in St. Augustine. She's a world-renowned artist. We brought Harry McCormick, who has his pictures in the Guggenheim. He has his pictures in the Vatican. He has his we brought him in. We were also able to bring in the Bernardo Circus that opened again yesterday. And I just put a story, if you go, of interviewing Bernardo and this beautiful boutique circus. What I'm trying to say is, I sit at the board of the St. John's Cultural Council that handles several $1 million. I always tell organizations like this, if you want to move forward, leave your ego at home, man. That's the biggest destroyer of groups like this. Think of what you're going to do, not just for yourselves, but for the community. What are you going to share with the community? I had a buddy who says, if you come here and you don't care, if you come here and you're not for the community, if you're not here come to help, if you're not come here to fight with us, then get the hell out of here, because I don't need you, man. And that's how you have to see, are you giving the community something? What Luke was just saying, imagine if the Latin Heritage Organization created workshops to empower people in the Latin community, and we offer our services with the same aim he has, to help them, not to profit from them, but from really helping them. And what I've noticed of people who have great businesses is that they have friends, they don't have clients, they have relationships. They have people, they go to their birthdays, to their kids' soccer game. That people like the people who approach me. I didn't ask people for that. Today I was invited by investor bankers to a real beautiful Christmas dinner at Serenata Club. All right, I'll go. People want you to be there because they feel that you got something good to offer. You're not, a friend says, sale is two things. A sale is either an organic process or it's a con job. You put yourself in which one? Because if you come into my suitcase shop and you say you're looking for a suitcase and I show you a suitcase and you pay me for a reasonable price, that's an organic transaction. But if you come into my suitcase and you charge me more than what the profit is really kind of outrageous, and you promise me things that suitcase is going to do, which you know is not going to do, you just conned him. You did not sell him something. And that is what you got to do. Are you really, from the inside, wanting to help? If you're going to be board members, so if you do this, make sure you're coming in to work, you're coming here to bring the community with you, and that you're here to have a passion over it. Because other way, it's just another burger joint. My dad was in the restaurant business, and I remember he used to say, hey, Georgie, what's over there? McDonald's. What's over there? Burger King. What's over there? That's a Carol's. And that's a Wendy's. They're all standing on each corner, and they're all making a killing. It's just meat between two pieces of bread. And so you can reinvent. Even though there's competition, you can offer something very special. And like you were saying, we want this to be something different, something with a new approach. And, John Lennon's right. Love is the answer. If you come in with good intentions, you'll get good intentions. But if you come with egos and competition, and I've been in groups, man, it's like the politics, the gossip, the egos, you're out of there. This is not what I'm looking for. So I told Santos, hey, I'll come in, I'll put in my 2 cents, I'll help where I can and see where it goes. This, of course, is kind of an exploratory kind of meeting so that you still find out what his goals are, and then the board comes in and puts in their 2 cents. But my whole thing is, do this if it makes sense, do this if it's going to help, and other than that, like he was saying, we have no time to waste. There's tons of other things to do. So, thank you.
Don't go so far. Don't go so. It's clear, like the water, very clear. I don't want to add nothing to that. Yes. From January 2019, we want to bring other more. Like he said, if you want to really work, put your heart. I mean, we're here for that. Regardless, a couple changes coming up in January, but I think it's better to have a few good people, like at the Marine, a few good people with a strong heart, than have 1,000 doing nothing. So, and also the Bible says that, you know that. So it's only a few people in the Bible that work standing together and make it happen. Just need a few people, and then the rest come. Thank you, Lisa, to be here. Appreciate that. You know that, and Angie as well. And Marianne as well. Thank you. There's different way. Different what? The country? Afghanistan. So we got one from Venezuela, from this country, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Panama, Panameña, Chile.
Chilena.
So we got international. I invited her because I work for her for the first time. I mean, not for her, but for her company. I love her so much. I mean, she knows. So anyway, thank you to be aboard, be here. Anyone that want to be more about it, to be in this organization, we're here for that. This banner, I made that in 1 hour between an afternoon, and the person made this for me. It's a Puerto Rican lady, and married people come from after Maria. Moved here about a year ago, and they still have the business over there. And they just opened a business right here in Philip Highway, a big place. Lives in San Agustin. They want to work with us, and the next meeting they want to come over. She puts her soul in. I feel also very unique here, saying in partnership with San Agustin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. That is none, but it is. He's already working on it. I want to work with the gentleman here for happens that. So any question, please bring it over, or me, or George, or Luke.
Yeah, well,
Most welcome. Any questions coming up? It's open. Right now we got to open, and the food is already there. So
yeah, I think people should grab food and we can talk while we
grab
eat.
and we can exactly. So you can stand up, stretch your body, and thank you to be here. And then we get some eat food, iced tea, drink, whatever. I think Daniela want to enjoy it.